let's bring in our friend, Jeff Paterson, who is brought to you today by Greta. The home of our electric watch parties, Greta is Canucks Army's spot to catch the game throughout the season playoffs and also our place to chill in the offseason. When we go watch Shohei Ohtani as a Blue Jay, Greta is going to be our place to do it. Let's bring him in, Mr. Jeff Paterson of Rinkwide. He'll have the post-game show for you tonight, folks. I'm there collecting audio. That's why I'm suited up. People in the chat were asking if I'm suited up. I'm suited up. I'm ready to go. Jeff, thanks for doing this.
Hi, boys. This segment's not brought to you by Travis Green. I thought maybe he'd want to sponsor my appearance on Canucks Convo here this afternoon.
What do you think of that, though? Like our poll question of, should the Canucks honor him at all? Well, if they do, what should they do?
Yeah, I put myself in that same group that you do, Quads. I think an acknowledgement. The guy, 5 good years, plus all the years in Utica in the system. He put in the years and earned an opportunity, and obviously didn't go the way that he and the hockey club wanted. And so 2 years to the day since his departure or dismissal, he is back, and he's not in a head coaching role. He decided that he had to take an assistant coaching job just to get back in the loop. But I think he's put himself in a pretty good situation there with this New Jersey team that hasn't had the start that I think a lot of us around hockey thought that they would, but there's still a lot of runway left. I think they can get where they want to go, although the injury to Dougie Hamilton is going to hurt them over the long haul. But I think if you're the Vancouver Canucks, the right thing to do is acknowledge his return to the building, thank him for all of his years of service, and then get on with the game and try to beat him and his Devils.
Pat, the Devils have the league's best power play right now, and the Canucks' penalty kill hasn't looked great recently. How worried are you, sort of big picture, about the PK right now? And are there any deployment tweaks you would consider to maybe shift or change things up?
Yeah, I am worried, Harm, and quite frankly, having flashbacks to the last couple of seasons. When you think of the money and the actual allocation of resources and energy in the offseason to address that one particular area of the game, it shouldn't be right back to where it was the last couple of years. Now, it's not dead last, but you can see dead last from where they are. They're down to 25th in the National Hockey League at 75%. Like, this group, the personnel should be better. Without a doubt, they miss Carson Soucy and they miss Pius Suter, but good teams find ways to overcome. And I think in that one particular aspect of the game, they've got enough people that should still be able to get the job done. But as far as personnel tweaks, I want to see what Nikita Zadorov looks like. He logged 3 minutes and 19 seconds, I think it was, the other night. He and Tyler Myers were out there for the first Calgary power play goal. But, when I come back to my thing about being concerned, the Calgary Flames had scored 2 home ice power play goals all season. They doubled their total against the Vancouver Canucks. So that tells you that it's not a great Calgary power play, and yet they were able to torch the Canucks for a pair. 4 straight games, 6 of the last 7 now, the Canucks have given up power play goals to opponents. And yeah, and maybe I'm scarred from watching the penalty kill the last bunch of years. And I wrote about this at CanucksArmy yesterday. The one thing that this team has going for it this year is where last year the penalty kill sunk them. I mean, it was responsible for losing hockey games. They were still able to give up 2 the other night against the Flames and win that game. And so, they've alternated wins and losses here for the last 8. They're managing to tread water at the very least, but if they can get both ends of their special teams going, power play's gone a little bit quiet here. They're going back to that 4-forward set. I like that. But, I wonder if they lean on JT Miller just a little too much. He's always the first guy over the boards. Part of that is face-off deployment because Teddy Bluger hasn't been particularly good in the face-off circle. Nils Amon is starting to take on a little bit more of that role. They've got options now. And I would say 25 games into the season, there should be enough of a baseline to figure out who are your best 6 penalty killing forwards, and who's getting the job done on defense, and start to work with those guys. And if it means some difficult decisions, I'm sure JT wants to be a part of it, but if that's not where he's helping the hockey club the most, then maybe you lessen the load a little bit there and find some other guys that can step up because, again, it's not costing them a ton in the way of wins and losses right now. But if this team has designs on being a playoff team, they can't go into the playoffs with a penalty kill that's taken on water the way that this one is right now. So you hope that Soucy and Suter will be back. I mean, I think we have a better sense of Carson Soucy's return than we do of Pius Suter. I mean, that's just become a massive mystery now. This will be his 11th straight game that he has missed since the game in Montreal. So, you can't bank on those guys coming back anytime soon. The answers have to be found from within. And to me, it is an area that needs some instant attention.
Jeff, you briefly brought him up there. Nikita Zadorov, what'd you make of his Canucks debut on Saturday night?
Yeah, I thought in tough circumstances, and he talked about it too. I mean, how strange is that to get traded and then sit around in the same city until your new team arrives, and then you join them, and then you play against your old team. And you heard about it from the crowd. I think he expected that. Anytime a player asks out, you can understand why the crowd would get on him. But through it all, I like the way that they used him. We talked about 3 minutes of penalty kill time, and then, in the final minute, trying to preserve a lead and ultimately a victory, and he contributes to the empty net goal that stood up as the game winner. So they didn't overextend him. And Rick Tocchet talked about it again this morning that, it was a full team day off yesterday, and a guy like Zadorov probably could use that just to, kind of catch his breath and collect his wits. But Tocchet also said, he's a big believer in not hammering guys with too much information, that it's a chunk here and a chunk there, that this guy's a pro, he's been at this for close to a dozen years in the National Hockey League, that they don't have to bombard him with all sorts of systems information, that he'll pick things up on the fly. But all things considered, I thought he was all right. He stepped up early in the hockey game on Dylan Dubé. They didn't credit him officially with a hit there, so we're still waiting for him to have his first official hit as a member of the Vancouver Canucks. Now, maybe he took it easy on some of his old buddies on the Flames. I doubt that was the case, but, that does intrigue me. That's an area and an element that the defense corps doesn't really have, is that big, physical, intimidating force, where Tyler Myers obviously has the size and can, he throws weight around. You think of the hit on John Tavares. You think Duncan Keith a few years ago. It's not that Tyler Myers can't throw hits, but he's not out there generally looking for them. That is part of Nikita Zadorov's DNA. And I think at some point here, and maybe he was saving it for his home opener as a Canuck, but, I'm looking forward to seeing that element of sort of deterrence, that, you let guys know that you're out there and maybe they don't want to go into your corner, or maybe they don't want to venture to the front of the net.
J-Pat, what have you thought of the new look top six recently? It seems like against Calgary, the Paterson line with Lafferty on it was really able to sort of start generating some momentum. They picked up a pair of 5-on-5 goals. And then also Andrei Kuzmenko on the JT Miller line. Curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, Harm, that really when you look at the top six, the way it's constructed now, and they're going to keep the lines the same as they were the other night, essentially they have swapped Phil DiGiuseppe out and Sam Lafferty in. And we had all these questions at the outset of the season about DiGiuseppe and how long could he last as a top six guy and contributing in this hockey club. But obviously his play has vanished, quite frankly. And so he's going to sit out for a second straight game here. Lafferty gets promoted, and Sam Lafferty's been obviously a really nice pickup for the Canucks. I mean, 6 goals, 6 assists, and versatility to play a little bit higher in the lineup. So I'm not surprised that he's the guy that gets the bump here. I didn't think a whole lot of Kuzmenko's night in Calgary, quite frankly, but that wasn't a knock on him. I thought that was one of JT Miller's quietest nights in a long, long time. And so I'll give them another opportunity to try to find some chemistry. And I know Tocchet's had faint praise here for Kuzmenko, starting to see a little bit of, some signs of him digging in and playing a little bit better. But how can you argue with the results of that Paterson line? They each score a goal. They each get an assist. So 2-point nights for all of them. I thought that was maybe Ilya Mikheyev's most assertive night as a Vancouver Canuck, not just this season, but when you think last year he played on a wonky wheel for, until they shut him down. I'm not sure that we've seen the best of Ilya Mikheyev. His anticipation to jump Mackenzie Weegar and pounce on that loose puck and then put the Jets on. Honestly, I think that might be the fastest we've seen him in a straight line in Canuck colors. And that's really encouraging. I know he didn't score on the breakaway, that there are still questions about his finishing touch around the net, but the guy does have 8 goals now in 21 games. So it's hard to argue with that. So I'm not surprised that Tocchet's coming back with them. Again, is Sam Lafferty the answer long-term in the top 6? Probably not, if this team fancies itself as, any sort of playoff contender. But again, there's lots of time to work out those sort of kinks. I think in the short term, Lafferty's a fine option there. He's got speed. Rick Tocchet's always looking for guys to get in on the forecheck and turn pucks over so that Elias Pettersson can do what he does best. And, I've seen some signs here of late, Elias Pettersson sort of emerging from his fog too. I think he's been invested in and digging in a little bit more the last couple of games. And that's an encouraging sign to me, because I thought he drew 2 penalties the other night in Calgary, rang the one off the post on the 5-on-3, and then figures in the scoring as well. So I thought on the road, and when JT Miller wasn't going, that kind of quietly, Elias Pettersson had a really effective night the other night.
All right, Jeff. Hughes Bowl tonight. What are you hoping to look for from the brothers? playing tonight?
Well, look, Jack is one of my favorite players to watch in the National Hockey League. The things that he does at speed with the puck on his stick, just an absolute menace to defend. So how do the Canucks defend? But I'm looking forward to seeing Luke. I mean, I've watched Luke on TV. I've seen clips of Luke, but I've never seen him in person myself. And I kind of feel like a lot of the hockey world is sleeping on his rookie season so far. And with Dougie Hamilton out of the lineup, he's going to be asked to do a fair bit as a 20-year-old. And then Simon Nemec, the second overall pick from the draft a couple of years ago, made his NHL debut the other night. So, the Devils really are running with a 19 and a 20-year-old as two of their top defensemen. So that's kind of fascinating to me to see how long that's, can that be sustainable? Are you going to have to live with some rookie mistakes? But want to see Luke in action. And look, every time out, it's fun to watch Quinn, 9th goal the other night. So knocking on double digits. And would anybody be surprised if he got there tonight? I think the one thing that stands out, and Quinn was, he was in game mode this morning, just this massive scrum, the attention on this story. Like the league is taking notice. I've been at this a while. That was as big a scrum around a Canuck player as I've seen in a long, long time on a game day. So I do think the hockey world's taking notice of all of this. The Devils, for whatever reason, have just owned the Canucks in the last 8 years. And I posted the stat on Twitter this morning. The Canucks have one win in their last 15 games against think of the Devils over the last 8 years. They have 2 first overall picks and a second overall pick. It's not like they've been the Chicago Blackhawks or the Tampa Lightning or the Colorado Avalanche. Like they've been down in the dumps too. And for whatever reason, have just owned the Vancouver Canucks. And I think Quinn takes that kind of stuff to heart, that Jack has a 5-1 victory advantage over Quinn head to head. And I think Quinn's going to say enough is enough. I think people around the league, if they haven't been taking notice of what Quinn's up to, I think some will stay up to watch this hockey game. And I just get a sense that Quinn's going to be as motivated, if not more so than usual. And that's a good thing for the Vancouver Canucks, because we know when he's driven, that usually means good things for the home side.
Clean slate against the baby brother. That's what he's going to be thinking. His youngest brother, he's got a clean slate. You got to write that record, make sure it gets on track. Jeff, thank you so much for doing this. We'll talk to you later on Rinkwide.
All right, guys. Thanks.
As Jeff Paterson, as I said, be sure to check out Rinkwide Vancouver, wherever you get your podcast. It is up roughly an hour or 2 hours after the final horn. So listen to it on your drive into work, whatever it is you want to do. J-Pat does an incredible job with varying hosts. Harmon and I being two of them that have been on that show. So our thanks again to Jeff Paterson. Harmon, the interesting thing, I think the most interesting thing that Jeff said there, said a lot of interesting things, but the final thing that he said really interested me about Quinn's going to want to win this game tonight. And like I said, with the baby brother, clean slate, he's going to be looking to right that ship. And that's kind of an angle of this that I haven't really looked at, and I wish I had before I made my Betway bet of the day, which we'll get to later, because it should be the Quinn Hughes over on shots, because he's going to be shooting tonight.
Yeah, and it's funny though, because I almost don't think Quinn's mindset is going to be that much different than what it has been overall this season. And I mean that as a compliment of, I think, the step he's taken to where there's been a noticeable difference in how much he wants to sort of take over games this season, just single-handedly. You'll have sort of moments where in the puck or in the offensive zone, he's demanding the puck. He's looking guys off, and he wants to do it. He wants to put the team on his back. It's just that feeling you get in certain situations where he's able to take over, the way he's relentlessly in attack mode. It's different from earlier in his career, where a lot of times you'd see Quinn putting on an offensive show, but it would be here and there. It wouldn't be seemingly every shift. And that's what it's felt like for Hughes. Is he's just been relentlessly assaulting the other team. It's rare when you have 9 other players on the ice, right? 4 teammates, five opposing players, that one guy on the ice surface can single-handedly make that much of a difference. And yet he's been doing that pretty much the entire season. So for as much as he's going to have extra motivation to be a difference maker, it feels like just mentally he has a different killer instinct that comes with maturity, comes with experience, that, again, I've noticed this entire season, not just something that he's going to be looking to activate tonight.
Canucks Conversation with Harmon and Quads every weekday at 2 p.m. Be sure to check it out on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. And if you missed it, go check it out on your favorite podcast catcher app.